I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be discussing the changes I've been making to my Miru team on both Mantastic and Fantastic, along with discussing the upcoming buff that is happening to her in the very near future. So, for those who are familiar with my website or watch my regular Twitch stream, I like to use Miru a lot. She is used to clear all the hardest content for me, as she is at least a farmable leader, so I'm able to at least have a high tier leader without having to gamble with the rare machine. In addition, I have made changes over time, mostly because I pulled either in previous more recent Godfests, along with just trying to min-max my performance as best I can to improve my Arena 3 consistency. So, without further ado, I just want to discuss what the new buffs are going to do to her and how it's going to impact her gameplay and playstyle. So this article you're seeing here will actually be linked in the YouTube description below, so feel free to reference it because I won't be reading directly from it, so you may want to just have a quick read through on your own. In addition, it will also link you to these 3 other articles I have written that are relevant, especially the Miru team building, because that will give you the foundation of how Miru works. So the leader skill buff change that is occurring to Miru is going to propel her from a 49 times attack leader to a 59.29 times attack. Now, that is actually quite a sizable increase in her damage output because she already was powerful enough as she was. Like, there were plenty of other cards that could have benefited more from a buff, but I'm not going to really complain because she is my favorite leader and card, so just have to deal with it, which I'm okay with. But the fact is, she now becomes that 59 times attack leader with her 75% damage reduction shield. And in almost every scenario, this is a buff that is fantastic. It's miraculous even. However, the only problem is going to occur is when you have to face bosses with damage absorption shields. Most notably Parvati, especially in Arena, or Arena of any level. Because Parvati absorbs damage above 300,000. So if you hit for over 300,000, you actually heal her. And currently, with at least my team set up with my Enhanced Orb Awakenings and full 297, I can only make either a Heart Cross light combo and one other, or just a Heart Cross and one light combo. And this is with the 49 times. So when it jumps to 59 times, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit low enough damage to actually kill her before the 99 turns expires, which is just a pain to grind out, basically. So this is the major drawback that's going to occur because all other damage absorption shields are either much higher value, so you have a lot more leeway. Because if you can't do low enough damage with a Heart Cross and one light combo, there's no way you're going to actually be able to kill it. Like, you have to wait, and that is problematic. So this is the main issue because Miru is kind of an all or nothing girl. She does 49 times, soon to be 59 times damage for the Heart Cross, or 1 times without. So this is going to be a problem for people who play Arena consistently because there's a 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 chance you fight Parvati, depending on which difficulty you do. So this could be annoying, but this is really the only spawn currently that is going to be a problem. Otherwise, the damage increase should not be an issue because say you're fighting Vishnu or Hera Dragon, they absorb 1 million for Vishnu or 2 million for Hera Dragon, which is equivalent to 1 million because you're light versus dark. But you can still make adequate number of combos, and you still can hit below that million. So you have enough wiggle room. But when the new buff does get released, I strongly encourage everyone who does use Miru a lot to go test out Endless Corridors. Just see how much damage you actually deal with, say, like Heart Cross and Light Combo and 2, 3 others, so on and so forth. So you can find your threshold or what you're trying to achieve to not heal the boss. However, with all that being said, you get more damage. And more damage is great because with more damage, you can kill floors with less combos or less light orbs. You may need less light rows or 2 prongs. And that also means you can use less actives because you may be able to sweep a floor with your current board. And by saving actives, you are increasing your consistency. Along with being able to burst higher, you may not actually have to bring a damage-enhancing sub. And that means you can bring another orb changer, which further increases your consistency because you will have access to another turn of a Heart Cross if it makes Heart Orbs, which it should. So this is great. Like, this is going to be miraculous. Like, it's going to improve pretty much all your dungeon runs, except for those with Parvati, and 300,000, I'd say, is the zone where damage absorption becomes an issue. For Sopdet, you actually always make a row, and no Heart Cross. You actually just make damage without a Heart Cross against Sopdet because it's 200,000. But 300, I think, is going to be the cutoff point for when you will do too much or too much damage of a Heart Cross with the buff. 400, you should be fine. 500, obviously, anything above is going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So this damage buff is huge. Like, it's going to definitely make your life a lot easier. And I do look forward to it because, provided I don't encounter Parvati, my runs are going to have higher levels of consistency. So let's take a look at my Miru team. And this is probably where I've spent quite a bit of effort trying to min-max my own team with the limited resources I do have. Now, compared to the very first clear I ever had, which actually I'll just open up really quick here, I guess, for comparison's sake. Ah, look at that! That was actually my second clear. First clear I didn't record, second clear I did. But this is my team setup. So I actually had a Gadius on my Miru. I didn't have any inherits. I had Saria in her base form and Apollo, just like that. And this team actually cleared Arena 3 twice, at least, before I started making changes. But I had a Woken Ra and Pollux, and Mantastic looks pretty similar otherwise. Fast forwarding to where I am now, I actually have Sylvie onto my Miru, which should be the Saria. I made a mistake. I need to switch the Sylvie and Saria, which I'll explain later. But I've added a lot of skill delay resists, and I added Paimon instead of Apollo. I'll explain all the major changes soon, but I just want to give a quick overview. And I replaced Awoken Ra of Red Odin, and Mantastic looks the exact same otherwise, to be honest, aside from skill delay resists where there weren't. So, in terms of my latent setup, I like to prioritize recovery and health on cards that have high base stats, because when you form a Heart Cross, those stats have effectively 4 times the value. So it's more important than Rainbow Resist, or damage reduction colors. However, you still should have at least one Rainbow Resist on your team, because it allows you to tank those 100% gravities when you don't make a Heart Cross. This, I think, has the most value, at least from my experience, when you're fighting Hera Is, like her final form, where if you get her low health, she'll bind a bunch of your monsters, and then do 100% gravity afterwards. With the playing co-op with a Rainbow Resist, you're able to make a Heart Row to recover bind your allies' subs that were bound, and the latent resist of water will actually protect you from that gravity, so you don't die. So you don't have to make the Heart Cross, and that way your team is unbound, and you can kill on the subsequent turn. This also kind of segues into why I like to bring a Recover Bind sub on all of my teams. It is a personal preference, but I like being able to clear binds with a Heart Row if cards get bound, because I don't have to dedicate a specific sub to clearing binds. Yes, your leaders are bind immune, but sometimes you do need your subs. And even if you say use an Orb Changer and you produce at least 11 plus hearts, you can Heart Cross to do damage and Row to kill. Whereas if you had a sub dedicated only to bind clearing, you may not be able to do that. So that's why I like the Recover Bind. It's a personal preference. It's good in most cases, as well as for my Arena 3 runs. And another change I've actually made recently is adding in skill delay resists quite liberally throughout my team. And skill delay resists allow me to basically circumnavigate a lot of problematic floors, because I no longer get delayed, or at least delayed as much. Because when your skills get delayed, you're kind of helpless. So say you fight a Woken Shiva in Arena, it's a 2-turn skill delay. If you have 2 turns of skill delay resist, you don't get delayed. You can use actives, and he hits really hard otherwise. So this is beneficial. And one reason why I actually made the purchase, along with having, I guess, modest amounts of monster points from playing so much co-op, and no actual 300-point dragon or card I can buy, because my boxes can't support them, unfortunately. So for me, it was a good investment. I've only had 1 or 2 runs with it. I felt it helpful because I did fight a Woken Shiva. I did fight Thoth, like things like that, and I did fight Hino actually. So I fought all the skill delay people, and it made it easier. I could clear it before, but why not make it easier? Instead of having, say, like a 95% clear, now it's like a 97% clear. It's an improvement, but why not take it? So these are my current team, like I said. So I need to switch my Sylvie with Saria, because Saria combos with Wedding Akachi, which Mantastic has, so I'd rather have access to more Saria actives on Mantastic. The DQXQ inherits a DQXQ just to protect against skill delays. The delay resist help. basically I have a lot more wiggle room to protect myself against skill delays with this setup. The Light DQXQ has the Recover Bind, and it has the Rainbow Resist because they have the lowest base stats. They benefit the least from health or recovery. I actually used my Awoken Venus to inherit a Saria because Saria was good, but her Awakenings are more lackluster by comparison. She has lower base stats, and Venus is just stronger overall. Furthermore, Venus has only a short 4-turn cooldown, so it's easy to inherit. It allows me, and also Saria's active allows me to combo with Wedding Akachi. The Paimon replaced Apollo, which I'll discuss further down, and it's a big benefit because Apollo was kind of a dead sub, and I'll explain more when I go down. So Fantastic basically just changed Red Odin over Woken Ra. This allows me to actually set up the board because Poison kills the pre-draws. I can make my board pretty, clear off Dead Orbs, so I'm set up for the next floor. And in addition, Red Odin's active has a longer cooldown, which is actually advantageous in this case because before I was kind of pressured to use Wukong's skill more frequently than I wanted to because it would cap out to Woken Ra, which is useless. So with Red Odin's 15-turn cooldown, I have a lot more wiggle room to use Wukong when I want to and not being forced to actually use it. Other than that, Fantastic hasn't changed aside from skill delay resist latents. So, like I said, Saria plus Wedding Akachi is my burst combo. It's how I deal lethal damage with the Heart Cross and Rose and Cascades, so on and so forth. And I took out Gadius, and I try to avoid these 4 elemental board changes because you are taking a gamble to a certain degree because you may not get enough hearts for a Heart Cross, or you may not get enough lights for a light row. And if you're missing either element, you're going to have a problem. So I'd rather take out that RNG because if you use, say, a Saria or Sylvie active as a standalone, you're much more likely to have a safe and activatable board. So the major changes I did were upgrading via Venus. So Awoken Venus is probably the best light base you can use for skill inheritance because she has fantastic awakenings, she has high base stats, and her active is only a 4-turn cooldown. So this allows you to use actives that you would normally not be able to bring on your team with a better base. Now, she's not getting a reincarnated evolution at this point, but the other cards in her Pantheon have, so she might, and if she does, she's going to be propelled even further ahead. So this is fantastic in my opinion. Like, she's positioned well to get improvements, and this is why I've been using Venus as a base for my skill inheritance, mainly because she's a stronger option than the Saria, who lacks an ultimate evolution, and the Wedding Akachi, who also lacks the ultimate evolution. If things change, I can always break the inheritance, so I'll see how it goes then. But her high recovery I do like because it does help healing. Like, even though you do have a Heart Cross, endgame bosses hit very hard, so this does make a difference. Next, I did remove my Awoken Apollo from Mantastic's team, as I rolled a Paimon and Saria in the most recent Godfest. So Awoken Apollo was basically a sub I used because I had no better option. He's good, but he's okay to good, I would say. And okay to good does not cut it when you're playing endgame content. He did feel kind of dead, mostly because his base active is lackluster. Like, you can use his active, but it's not going to provide much value because you have to use someone else in conjunction. Yes, you get that Skyfall, but the thing is, you use Apollo's active, you remove Hearts and Light Orbs. You're forced to use, say, a DQXQ or base Miru active in conjunction. Now, you're using 2 actives, but if you're using 2 actives, you want to get the most value possible, and Apollo plus, say, a DQXQ or Apollo plus Miru is not very good value. You might be able to make 2 rows, but you can't make many combos because you'll have Dead Orbs in random amounts or just awkward placements. So this is weak if you compare it to, say, using Saria Wedding Akachi or Apocalypse DQXQ. Because Apocalypse DQXQ, Saria Wedding Akachi, they result in 2/3 lights, 1/3 hearts. Enhancement if you do Wedding Akachi. But the point is, you can easily make 2 rows, you'll have cascades, you'll have a much more optimized board. You'll do much more damage, and the best part is, you can use any of those actives as standalone actives. You can't use Apollo by himself. So right from the get-go, his active is not that good actually. Even though you can combo it with someone else, it's going to produce less value compared to the other options that are available. So this is why I didn't like using him. And yes, I did inherit an active on top of his, but once I used that active, I'd have to wait for an eternity to have the inherited active back up, and I'd be stuck with Apollo's base active, which again leads to problematics when you're playing long dungeons like Arena 3, or Arena in general. So that was probably my main problem with Awoken Apollo, but this is a problem that may be less noticeable, but was a problem for me because of how much, say, Arena 3 I play. Because when you use Awoken Apollo as a sub, he has very high base attack, and he also has 2 prongs. Now, that results in really high spike damage, so that is good for piercing through high defense bosses, more so like, say, the Fat Metal King on the various floors. You can easily make a Heart Cross Light 2-prong pierce. But the problem is, when you're fighting damage absorption bosses, you might be forced to make a 2-prong in some cases, otherwise you may not deal enough damage. But the thing is, with Apollo, you might deal too much with him. So he will heal the boss, everyone else will damage the boss, but the net effect is you actually did very little damage. So this is bad. And also, it would cause deaths against Vishnu or Hera Dragon or other bosses with those absorption shields, just because he hits too hard. And by replacing him with Paimon, I actually don't have to worry about these 2 prongs killing things when they shouldn't have. So this actually gives me more damage control against those absorption bosses with the higher thresholds. And it may not be a problem for most people, but it was a problem for me. And I'm kind of glad I finally managed to replace him. Now, despite all these negative setbacks, Awoken Apollo can be used if you don't have better options. Like, he does have, again, that high base attack and the double 2-prong, so you can pierce through a lot of bosses, as well as having high base recovery and the dual enhanced heart orb awakenings. So, he is viable, but I don't like him, especially for longer dungeons. Short dungeons, great when you're just using actives once, but if you're forced to use actives multiple times in an encounter, he's gonna lose value. So I'm glad I rolled Paimon. So, goodbye Apollo, hello Paimon. So Paimon does have huge base health, which is nice. You can tank more hits with it. And obviously the Starry Inherit is better than the Gadius. Granted, I could have inherited Starry into Apollo, but you still have all the problems I mentioned above. But Paimon does provide a lot of consistent damage because you do have 2 more enhanced light orbs compared to Awoken Apollo. So your whole team is hitting for higher damage consistently, which is great because when you're going for big damage, you're actually not matching 2 prongs, you're matching rows. So if you're having, say, Wedding Akachi used, you have all those enhanced orbs, you're dealing much more passive damage. So this is important, and I do like that. Furthermore, Paimon's base active is actually quite strong in the sense that you do form 3 hearts, so you're most likely going to have a heart cross. You get 3 more lights. It can correct bad boards, but the haste can also be used to hasten up your other actives, so there is a lot of value to him. Now, the only problem I've encountered with Paimon thus far is when you're fighting Parvati. Parvati seems to be like a horrible spawn, which she is. And the thing is, when I use Mantastic's team, I no longer can actually match a Heart Cross Light combo 1 extra combo. I have to make Heart Cross Light combo. I can't do more. Otherwise I do too much damage just because the light orbs do passive damage. Mantastic can still do his light Heart Cross 1 combo, but Mantastic can't. And when the buff actually comes into effect with Miru becoming 59 times attack, I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to actually hurt Parvati now with Mantastic. Maybe Fantastic could, but Mantastic probably won't. So if Parvati spawns, I'm going to be stuck there for 99 turns, which is not nice. Other than that, Paimon is great. I like him so far. So, cards I wish I had. So, with any team I've ever made, I never have perfect Rare Machine rolls. I'm missing holes in my team, so I try and fill them as best I can. So it's kind of just good to look at what cards I could roll that would be able to improve my teams, because you may have these cards and you're wondering, why is he not mentioning them? So this is where I'm mentioning them now. So, Wedding Akachi is what kind of sets Light Miru apart from Beach Miru, aside from the color typing. The fact that you have a Wedding Akachi style active where you enhance, make light, and make heart orbs is invaluable because you combine 2 actives into 1. Because when you use Saria Wedding Akachi, 2/3 enhanced light orbs, 1/3 hearts, big damage. Beach Miru does not have something like that. She has to sacrifice another sub-slot to accomplish the same thing. So that's another reason why she's not as ideal aside from the color typing. So I would like to own a Wedding Akachi on Mantastic. Basically, the more actives I have, more Wedding Akachi actives I have, the more burst I can do. The only drawback would be fighting, say, absorption bosses, where you might do too much damage if you use the orb changer, because you can match non-enhanced light orbs and they do less damage. So that's another way to apply damage control, but wetting actually is good in most cases. That's one thing I kind of wish I had. Another area I want to improve is the Light DQXQ for the Recover Bind. And the best option, honestly, is Wukong. If I had a Wukong, I would use it straight away. I would just drop the Light DQXQ, put Wukong right away, because he has better stats, better awakenings, better overall. Furthermore, I probably would inherit something onto Wukong. I don't know what, because I don't have him yet, but I would inherit something because Wukong's active, while nice, does not have combo synergy with any active, so that's obviously not ideal. So you want to actually find synergy in some way, shape, or form. Maybe he would inherit DQXQ. I'm not sure. Next would be Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse has a great board changer. He spawns Light, Dark, and Heal. So that's perfect because it has synergy of DQXQ, which apparently I have lots of. And I would like to use him. However, I don't have him. But if I use him as a sub, I run the risk of having the same issues that I did with Awoken Apollo with the double 2-prong. So I might just use Apocalypse as a base for skill inheritance, but it's a great, as an assistant for skill inheritance. But it's a great active to have because of synergy with DQXQ. If I rolled an Apocalypse, I'd probably replace the Sylvie active with that, and my 2 DQs would be happy. Wedding Gadius is also a very powerful card that is used a lot. However, I don't like the active, and also the fact that I probably will never be able to roll him is another drawback. But he does fulfill the Recover Bind Awakening slot, so that is something to keep in mind if you do have Wedding Gadius. And like I mentioned before, in hindsight, I should have put my Sylvie onto Paimon and Saria onto my Miru, so Fantastic can have access to it, as well as Saria's active charging twice as fast, so on and so forth. But the point being is, I need to play Tan Infestation more. And I never have enough Light Tans, so rip. And for Fantastic, I'm pretty happy with his team. Like, if you take a look, like, it's pretty well optimized for at least Arena 3 setup. Obviously, the Red Odin wouldn't be used if I was doing non-Arena 3, but the point being is it's pretty good. And Saria is a reasonable base. Like, maybe if I had a second Venus, I would inherit. I'd use Venus as the base again, inherit Saria. Maybe I would, because it's stronger, but I did invest a skill delay latent, so I'm kind of gambling that Saria's evolution is going to be stronger. It does give me a nice chunk of health, which is nice. I guess rolling another DQXQ would be good, because I can just do the same thing as Mantastic and inherit DQ onto DQ for more skill delay protection. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with Fantastic's team at this point in time. So, in conclusion, Miru is still pretty much my favorite card and leader. Like, I like to use her all the time. She's great because she combines power and survivability, along with having subs that I actually own. Like, I have a pretty reasonable Miru team on both accounts, so I can clear challenging content. However, I guess my main gripe with Miru is that I don't like her final evolution artwork as much. I prefer the second one, but I guess beggars can't be choosers, so we're stuck with that. So let me know what you use on your Miru team and what you think of mine. Like, do you like my latent setup? Do you like my inheritance setup? What do you use? How would you change things? So let me know in the comments below. Like I said, the link to this article will be in the YouTube description below. Have a fantastic day, and happy puzzling! P.S. If you're in Canada, happy Thanksgiving as well. Take care!